A horrifying act of cruelty by family members shatters trust forever, transforming a place meant to offer warmth, protection, and love into a scene of unimaginable terror. Within the walls of what should have been a safe home, a defenseless child becomes the victim of deliberate violence, betrayed not by strangers but by those bound to him by blood and responsibility. The innocence of childhood is ripped away in a moment, replaced by fear, pain, and confusion that no child should ever have to endure. This single act exposes the darkest side of human nature. How authority, tradition, or misplaced anger can be twisted into justification for abuse. The child's cries echo not just through the room but through the conscience of anyone who believes family is sacred. Trust, once broken in such a brutal way, cannot simply be repaired. It collapses entirely, leaving deep emotional scars that linger long after physical wounds fade. More devastating than the violence itself is the realization that those who should have intervened either watched in silence or enabled the cruelty. In that moment, the home ceases to be a refuge and becomes a prison, proving that danger does not always come from outside. It can grow within one's own family. This tragic event becomes a turning point, forcing painful questions about loyalty, morality, and the true meaning of protection. It stands as a grim reminder that a child's safety depends not on walls or wealth, but on the courage of adults to choose compassion over cruelty, and to stop evil, even when it wears the face of family. The wife's shocking betrayal reveals a deeper moral collapse, one far more disturbing than a single act of violence. Her silence, her compliance, and ultimately her support for the abuse expose how cruelty does not survive on brutality alone, but on the quiet approval of those who choose not to intervene. In that moment, she ceases to be a protector, a partner, or a mother figure, and becomes an enabler of harm. Betrayal cuts deepest when it comes from someone entrusted with care. While the act itself inflicts physical pain, her willingness to look away, or worse, to assist, inflicts lasting emotional damage. It sends a devastating message to the child that their suffering is acceptable, that their fear is invisible, and that love can be conditional or cruel. This silent endorsement transforms violence into something systematic, something normalized within the family structure. Her actions, or lack of them, highlight a dangerous moral failure, where obedience, fear, or misplaced loyalty outweigh basic human compassion. By choosing not to stop the abuse, she allows it to continue, proving that indifference can be as destructive as rage. In families where power is abused, silence becomes a weapon and support becomes a signal that there will be no consequences. This betrayal fractures the foundation of trust beyond repair. It forces a painful reckoning, understanding that evil is not always loud or aggressive. It can be calm, passive, and disturbingly cooperative. Ultimately, her role in the abuse stands as a sobering reminder that protecting a child is not just about love in words, but about courage in action. When that courage fails, the damage echoes for a lifetime. A father's decisive response turns unbearable pain into unshakable power, marking the moment when grief gives way to action. Faced with the brutal reality of his child's suffering, he refuses to be paralyzed by shock or fear. Instead, he rises with clarity and purpose, determined to ensure that the injustice committed against his child is neither ignored nor repeated. His love becomes his strength, and his authority becomes a shield. Using his resources, influence, and resolve, he acts swiftly, removing his child from danger, drawing firm boundaries, and confronting those responsible without hesitation. This is not an act of revenge, but of protection. Every decision he makes is guided by a single truth. A child's safety outweighs family ties, tradition, and social pressure. Where others failed through silence or cruelty, he chooses responsibility and courage. His response sends a powerful message that abuse will not be hidden, excused, or normalized. By standing up, he disrupts a cycle of harm that might have continued unchecked. He replaces fear with security, uncertainty with stability, and trauma with the first steps toward healing. For his child, this moment becomes proof that someone saw the pain, believed it, and fought back. This decisive intervention does more than stop a single act of injustice. It permanently alters the course of their lives. It rebuilds trust, restores dignity, and lays the foundation for a future defined not by suffering, but by resilience. In choosing action over silence, the father transforms tragedy into a turning point, proving that true power lies in protection, accountability, and unwavering love.